Chapter 10, Life Lessons from 15 Years as a Card Counter. Courage, kindness, friendship, character. These are the qualities that define us as human beings, and propel us, on occasion, to greatness. A.R.J. Palacio. Wonder this book offers the foundation and framework needed to beat the casinos at Blackjack. If you and card counting fit together, that skill can make you money and a lot of it. Master the steps and execute them with discipline and resolve. The rest is just putting in the hours at the tables. But money is just a resource. I'm thankful for the money I've made from Blackjack and, more important, for the freedom that money has provided me. Money and freedom, however, aren't altruistic goals in and of themselves. Too much money and freedom are just as likely to ruin someone's life as improve it. There's no shortage of wealthy, but utterly miserable, people out there. I believe we exist for much more than bank accounts, possessions, and personal fulfillment. I believe we were created for meaning, love, and generosity. So while I hope this book furthers your ability to beat the dealer and take home the casino's money, I'd be remiss if I didn't share a few of the much more valuable lessons that card counting has provided me over the past 15 years. Life lessons from everyone. You begin to understand everything in the casino changes. It's not unlike becoming Neo in the Matrix. While everyone else is living a lie in the casino, believing in luck and apophenia, you suddenly begin to see the mathematical expectation behind every decision. While everyone else is thrilled to be in there thirsting after easy money, even while losing it, to the advantage player, it becomes painful to place a negative bet or to miss out on a positive one. I once even knew a compulsive gambler who was effectively cured of his problem after becoming a card counter. He said that when he began thinking in terms of it ruined the fun of gambling for him and he never gambled again. Thinking in terms of doesn't just apply to the casino. When you begin to see through the lens of outside of the casino, you realize that expected value is all around you. Every day, you make decisions that have either a positive or negative expectation, and even though life has variance, if you continue to make positive decisions, those add up over time. Investments rise and fall, but if they're positive, they trend upward. When I think of my greatest financial regrets, like my earlier real estate fiascos, I don't necessarily regret that I lost money, but that I wasn't making positive decisions. On the other hand, when I look at my biggest financial successes, they're always due to generating positive in an investment, business, or transaction, then patiently waiting for enough of those decisions to play out over time. The framework of has changed my life. But again, it's not all about money and efficiency. Maybe it's in your spiritual life, your relationships, or how you approach diet and exercise. You can think like a gambler and avoid investing in those parts of your life, just hoping against all odds that everything will work out in the end. Or you can make those small, daily, positive decisions that are guaranteed to pay off over time. It may be easier to ignore investing in a marriage, kids, meaningful friendships, or personal health, then try to make up for it with big gifts or crash diets. But just as card counters earn their living pennies at a time, I believe the health of marriages, relationships, and bodies has more to do with those small, regular, positive deposits we make than in the major events. I know that if I continue to look for ways to generate positive in the most meaningful areas of my life, the long run will take care of itself. APs and money. My parents keep wanting to know when I can visit them, since I haven't seen them in a couple of years, sighed Annie. But that would cost me a $300 plane ticket. Don't they realize that this is my bankroll money? I understand how important it is to protect a bankroll. But Annie wasn't exactly scraping by with a minuscule amount of money to play with. On the contrary, she and her boyfriend had amassed well over $500,000. Yet she still believed she couldn't afford to take $300 out of it to visit her family. Sad as it might seem, I can relate. One of the characteristics that make card counters successful is being good with money. But it can be a double-edged sword. While thinking in terms of is generally a great thing, it's possible to get obsessed with it. I once made my wife wait until we closed a bankroll to buy a $20 part for her pet turtle's aquarium. Meanwhile, I had $10,000 cash in my pocket. Luckily for me, Grace has the patience of a saint and the wisdom of a sage. This may sound contrary to what our culture believes, but studies continue to show that money doesn't make people happy. Surveys of the before and after of lottery winners reveal that they have higher levels of stress and depression and are even more likely than average to end up bankrupt or even commit suicide. One study by Nobel Prize-winning economist Angus Deaton revealed that there is no marked level of happiness for people who make more than $75,000. While most people think that large amounts of money will bring them the joy and happiness they've longed for, it turns out that isn't the case. Well, if I make lots of money through Blackjack, I'm going to be very generous with that money. That's what I told myself, too. But I had an equally well-intentioned way of convincing myself to continue investing the money, so I could be more generous later. It turns out I wasn't alone. Research shows that wealthy people tend to be less generous and actually meaner. I remember when I ended the church team and realized I was still putting off being more generous. It wasn't that I didn't want to be generous. It was just that I'd become obsessed with maximizing my financial lev. Ironically, very few people think of themselves as wealthy, because they can always compare themselves to someone wealthier than they are. Eventually, I had to sit myself down and say, buddy, you say you want to be more generous. It starts now. I heard an old proverb, money is to be used and people are to be enjoyed. But much of our culture has gotten caught up in the opposite, using people and enjoying money. What good is a $500,000 bankroll if you can't spend a few $100s to visit your family? Was that $20 really better off in my pocket, or would it have been better used letting my wife know that I care about her needs? I'm sure you know the answer, but it's not always that obvious when you live your life scratching and clawing for tiny edges. Yes, there's a time to save and be scrappy, and there's a time to invest and grow your capital. But money becomes valuable only when it's spent. So my advice is to work hard, take money from casinos, but also remember that the whole purpose of that money is to spend it on those people, relationships, and goals that really matter to you. And you know what? Odds are you'll end up much happier. A study of more than 200,000 people found that generosity had a positive effect on the participants' happiness in 93% of the countries surveyed. More than that, another study by sociologists found that the more generous people are with their money, their time, and in relationships, the better they feel, experiencing better mental health, better relationships, and even improved physical health. One of my all-time favorite stories is about card counter turned billionaire horse racing investor, Bill Benter. Bill attends the Blackjack ball every year and was voted into the Blackjack Hall of Fame a few years back. I recently discovered he also sometimes drives for Uber. When I asked him why, his response was to show me just how easy it is to sign up to be an Uber driver and to modestly point out his rating of 4.97 out of 5 from his passengers. I asked what he says when passengers ask what he does for a living, and he said, I tell them I'm a businessman. Oh, and his iPhone screen was cracked. Why do I love this story so much? Because it warms my heart to hear that someone isn't fundamentally changed by money. Bill Benter being so connected to reality is insanely refreshing to me. Then there's the billionaire founder of IKEA who was famously turned away from a gala event because he arrived on the bus, his preferred form of transportation. He was going to the gala to receive an award for Businessman of the Year. There's also Harry Potter author, J.K. Rowling, who lost her billionaire status after giving away most of her wealth. Bill Benter is as well known for his philanthropy as his financial successes. He isn't just chasing profits, he's building something important. Character and integrity. Knowledge will give you power, but character will give you respect. A Bruce Lee, you owe us for those calendars. You need to give them back to us. A furious casino manager yelled at me. You remember those calendars that had all the match plays and free play coupons on the back? Well, at one point, I went into the casino to purchase 10 of them, our per day limit. When I went to pay, the cashier made a mistake, and instead of charging me $100 for 10 calendars, she only charged me $10. I thanked her and went on my way. A week later, I'd returned to the casino to use some of the match plays when the casino manager called me out. She was fuming about the casino being shortchanged. What did I do? I was already at the front door, so I simply walked out of the casino and drove off. When I think of regrets from my playing career, this one always comes to mind. It wasn't so much that I received too many calendars, I honestly wasn't that clear on the price. But when I was confronted about it, I didn't pay up or return the extra calendars. Would I have walked out of a grocery store that challenged me on a mistaken purchase, or a bank that was informing me of a mistake in my transaction? I hope not. For some reason, however, I put casinos into a different category. It's easy in the heat of the moment to make impulsive, selfish decisions. As I've gotten older, it's become as important to consider how I make money as actually making the money. A few years ago, I was invited to speak at the World Gaming Protection Conference, an international gathering for casino surveillance and game protection personnel. I told them that, while I wouldn't share any trade secrets about card counting, I was willing to share some stories and talk about some of the lessons I've learned along the way. They graciously agreed. I was looking forward to sharing with this audience some of the concepts that I've covered in these pages, what card counting has taught me, approaching life in terms of EV and risk-taking, and that money isn't a satisfying goal in and of itself. But I also was excited to both humanize card counters to the casino industry and to apologize for dehumanizing casino employees. I wanted to humanize card counters, because I imagine that to a surveillance employee, a card counter appears as a seedy or even unscrupulous individual who will cheat or steal to make a buck. But in my experience, card counters are generally kind, generous, and good-natured people. We tend to enjoy being David defeating the Goliaths and have no qualms about beating casinos at the games they offer. especially given the gazillions of dollars they fleece from the general population. I'm sure it's easy for game protection personnel to see card counters not as people, but simply as the enemy. More than that, I wanted to apologize for being guilty of the same thing. It became easy, over time, to treat the entire casino as an alternate reality to real life. In doing so, I tended not to see dealers, pit bosses, security guards, and other casino employees as people with real lives and joys and challenges of their own. While I don't think I was ever rude or hostile to casino employees, I did mostly look at them as flat, two-dimensional, video game characters who only existed as a means to my personal end. Truth is, I never want to treat anyone that way. I've come to believe that when it's all said and done, how we treat people will last a lot longer than any money we've made. While I don't anticipate being friends with every casino employee or to start tipping dealers from my 382 blackjacks anytime soon, I do desire to give them something much more important: dignity, respect, and value. Several of years back at the blackjack ball, I was having a conversation with a longtime AP, big player. Somehow, we began talking about Tommy Highland. Big player said, "Tommy is a great guy. On a scale of 1 to 10, he's an 11. It's true. As much as I respect Tommy as a card counter, he's an even better human being. I can only hope to treat people in a way that they might one day say that about me." Expectations as a card counter. A regular occurrence at our blackjack boot camps always makes me smirk to myself. The pros who help put on the boot camp complain amongst themselves about all the challenges of being a blackjack professional: backups, losing streaks, travel, etc., while all the trainees in the room are dreaming of being one of those pros. What causes this disconnect? Psychologists Tom Gilovich and Shai Davidai write about a psychological bias termed the headwinds, tailwinds asymmetry, which basically says that we pay more attention to the things working against us, headwinds, than the things working for us, tailwinds. Before people turn into professional card counters, they're so keenly aware of the challenges of their current job, career, or life that they imagine all would be rosy if they could just make it as an advantage player. However, when someone finally makes it as a card counter, he or she becomes acutely attuned to the headwinds a professional blackjack player faces. I understand both sides. I've oscillated over the years between thinking nothing could be as incredible as counting cards for a living and, this is ridiculous. Why don't you grow up and get a real job? So what's the solution? I've found two things to be very helpful. Understand what card counting is and isn't. I know I'm biased, but I'm incredibly thankful for card counting and for the freedom and financial gain it has given me and my family, for the life lessons it has provided me, and most importantly, for the people I've gotten to know through the process. However, card counting will never meet all of your deepest longings and desires. Advantage play can make you money and leave you with some great stories, but that doesn't mean it won't get frustrating, old, or fail to be a good fit in your life. The sooner you realize what card counting can and can't do for you, acknowledging both the headwinds and tailwinds, the sooner you can enjoy it for what it is and not try to force it to be more than that. If you fail to realize this, you risk forcing it to fit when it's getting in the way of more important goals. I met a guy recently who was lamenting losing his fiancée tilde copyright because he was unwilling to walk away from an advantage play that was making him $40,000 per month. Sure, he gained a boatload of money, but he lost something or someone, in this case much more valuable to him. One of the great things about card counting and advantage play is that it can be picked up or set down for any length of time. I've taken breaks of months or years, then when I feel like getting back out there, I put together a bankroll, sharpen my skills, and hit the tables. Enjoy the journey. If I had it to do over, I would have stopped more often to reflect on each step of my journey. When I was making $7 an hour at the local bowling alley casino, all I could think about was growing the bankroll and getting to the next level. Then, when I was playing full-time, all I could think about was closing the current bankroll and growing my nest egg. In hindsight, those days at the bowling alley casinos are some of my fondest memories. Then, traveling the country with teammates as playing, winning, losing, learning, being lavished with comps, and getting backed off at those are stories I can't tell without a huge smile on my face. Honestly, it wasn't even until I was done running a $1 million team that I realized how incredible and special it was. Scientific studies show that being grateful increases overall happiness. Ironically, it doesn't even matter what you choose to be grateful for. If you find anything to be grateful for, it will increase your happiness. Take the time to be thankful for your life and all the tailwinds that have put you into your present situation. That doesn't mean you ignore the challenges/headwinds, but at least try to be as honest about the good as the bad. I know it's a cliche tilde copyright, but you often don't know what you've got until it's gone. So whether you're a card counter or not, I have no doubt people and experiences in your life are worth pausing to appreciate. Better yet, you could take a few minutes to write some of your thoughts and stories down. Who knows who might benefit from your experiences down the road. Smiling while losing. I recently put together a 4-day blackjack trip with Loudon to investigate an otherwise unexplored group of casinos. We found a largely untouched region where we could generate about $200 an hour in with our medium stakes bankroll. In one session, I was getting absolutely destroyed. I bought in every few minutes, losing bet after bet at high counts. Previously, this would have stressed me out. And while I didn't enjoy getting clobbered, I couldn't help but smile in the middle of the losing streak. I was thinking about how I was doing something I'm really good at, enjoy, have the privilege of choosing to do, and has resulted in so many life lessons and awesome relationships. And I know the math always works out in the end. By the end of the trip, I'd won back the money I lost and then some. But that's not the point. The point is that I was generating financially, relationally, and in life experience. If you choose this journey, may you enjoy the process as much as the results. Card counting to fund the dream of the Phoenix. How did you get into card counting? I got into card counting as a hobby. It's a long story, but at first, I heard about it from the editor of the documentary about the church team. I didn't think much of it at that time. I was more excited that I'd finally moved to Los Angeles. Eventually, since LA is so close to Vegas, I went on my first gambling trip with some friends. I lost my whole $200 gambling budget. Returning from Vegas, I saw the trailer for Holy Rollers. It planted a seed in my mind. At work, a guy mentioned to me that his buddy used the martingale system. I tried that with a little success at first, but I ended up losing $1,700. That was the end of that. Then I lost that job and sat on the couch playing Magic, the Gathering for a month with my severance pay. By that time, I'd seen the whole church team documentary. I recalled that at the end of the movie, there was a section about boot camps. Tired of video games, I checked the BJA website and saw that there was a boot camp in a week. I called and landed a spot after another guy bailed the day before, thinking it was a scam. What were you doing for work before you got into card counting? Before I got into counting, I was a motion graphics and visual EI diaresis negation X artist. What was your goal with Blackjack? Advantage play. My goal with Blackjack was very exploratory. I wanted to see what the line of work was like and how much I could make with it. Did you keep your day job? Yes, I kept my day job for 4 years. Then I got serious and went full-time for 2 years. How has it gone? Have you reached your goals? I guess you could say that I exceeded my goals. When I was a hobbyist for 4 years, I wanted to have a supplemental income. When I went full-time, I wanted to get debt-free and build a $100,000 bankroll that I called the bazooka. How much have you made and how long did it take? When I was a hobbyist for 4 years, I made $35,000. When I went full-time for 2 years, I took $400,000 from the casinos. What are you doing now? Currently, I'm writing a feature LM script for a movie I'm going to make about card counting. Back in December, I did a short LM, by A tilde plus minus item man. Any advice for people thinking about using advantage play to fund their passion projects? Money doesn't solve problems. Creativity does. Playing blackjack to fund your passion projects can be a creative way of making it happen. I'm making a movie about it, having everything come full circle. One of my partners went solo and lost his entire bankroll. His dream was to own a fishing boat. When I see his social media now, he has a ship. A part of me is envious. He's living his dream without even needing blackjack. Also, when money is coming in fast, your goals seem to change all the time. Usually, those goals involve some way of rationalizing your need to get more cash. No amount of money is ever enough. That said, keep investing toward your goal, as opposed to only building a bankroll. Call it a dream tax. I started this whole adventure by playing video games for a month straight. I did the same when making the $400,000. This casino in Sacramento let me play for 10 months straight, raking in $30,000 a month. The last month I went in only 8 days out of the month. The rest of the days, I spent playing video games. When I made a bunch of money, it made me lazy. Now that my money is dwindling, I'm finally writing a script and making the movie for cheap. I'm alive in this struggle, more alive than when I was making the $400,000. If you had it to do over, what would you do? DI diaresis negation Rintley. I guess I wouldn't wait so long to go full time, and I'd keep excellent records from day one. My early records are a little blurry. I'd also like to say that I'd like not to have a phase where I realized I was getting lucky at first. However, I honestly don't know how that would have been possible. Part of the learning process is learning from failure. Has card counting taught you any lessons that apply away from the tables? Blackjack has taught me some fantastic things. Variance is good. Were it not for variance, Blackjack would be boring. In Blackjack, we lose more bets than we win. We happen to win a few more of the big ones than the many small ones. The analogy plays in the back of my mind when I'm creative. Away from the table, I face creative variance. Out of the many things I'll make, most of them won't be successful. But because I'm continuing to risk and create, one will find success enough to pay for all the losses and allow me to keep doing what's essential. Create. Money isn't separate from your emotions. The blackjack thrill ride exists because you wager cash. You're happy when you win and sad when you lose. But both of those feelings go away over a short period. Casinos aren't very ethical. They take your photo and pass it around. They ask you to leave when you're playing by the rules. They advertise that they want you to win, but watch you with contempt when you do. Blackjack has taught me that there will still be crimes in the world. Instead of sitting around being angry about the injustices, keep moving forward and make the best of your circumstances as they are.